the linkage between nonprofit and the arts. It's not something probably people think about a lot of times, but it's very important. I want to thank the Rutgers Center for Nonprofit Leadership and Development for putting this incredible conversation together. We thank you so much, and for continuing to educate us as you have done today.
Welcome, everyone. For 50 years, we have been committed to advancing public service, leadership, and community engagement. In over 5 decades, we have grown into one of the best institutions in the world. For 50 years, we have been preparing professionals who are ready for serving the community and public service. Events like tonight actually beautifully embody our value, our mission. We bring together thought leaders, innovations, community partners, so that we can turn our goals into meaningful impact.
Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Dr. Lindsay McDougall, and I am the director of the Center for Nonprofit Leadership and Development, where the mission of the center is to support and strengthen nonprofit leadership through research, education, and community engagement. And our event tonight is an example of this mission. Dr. Charles is an expert in nonprofit financial management and co-authored Financial Leadership for the Arts: Sustainable Strategies for Creative Organizations. Following the talk, Dr. Charles will be joined by Mary Jaffa, the Vice President of Finance for NJPAC. So thank you again for joining us, and we're excited to hear from Dr. Charles.
Tonight I'm going to talk to you about some sustainable strategies that arts organizations can utilize in these difficult and turbulent times.
The Corporation for Public Broadcasting has just announced that it will soon shut down.
A judge heard arguments from the National Council of Nonprofits.
The Trump administration is slashing funding for local arts programs across the country.
The painter Henri Matisse once wrote, "Creativity takes courage." Arts leaders know this, and they know that to survive within a nonprofit creative endeavor, creativity requires that they balance several financial and ideological imperatives. What if I told you that the secret to unlocking more creativity lies with a spreadsheet? It sounds more like the opposite of what we think of when we hear the word inspiration. A friend once told me that spreadsheets are where creativity goes to die. Arts leaders have to be able to see both the dance floor and the view from the balcony if they have to maintain balance when the future brings trouble or opportunity. Because when we treat money as a tool instead of a taboo, the artistic possibilities just open wide. Let us think about a nonprofit executive director. Let us call her Linda. She is running a small but vibrant arts organization. She wakes up every morning fueled by a vision, and that vision is to bring transformative, community-driven art to people who otherwise would not have access to it. But there's a problem. Every great idea that Linda and her team come up with has a price tag. And every time she speaks to people about money, she can feel the energy in the room shift. Their eyes glaze over. The excitement dims under this financial reality. Linda's story isn't a unique story. It's the story of countless arts leaders who stand at the intersection of mission and money, creativity and constraint. The question is, how do you keep your artistic spark alive while keeping the lights on? We expect arts leaders to put on world-class creativity on a shoestring budget. Let me tell you about another arts leader. His name is Jose. Jose runs a theater company. He faced a dilemma. Should he invest in marketing to grow ticket sales or keep his expenses low to satisfy his funders? The paradox: funders wanted to see financial sustainability. However, they did not want to fund anything that wasn't direct programming. The result, a constant battle between artistic vision and financial survival of the organization. But what if we stop treating financial health as an afterthought? What if we recognized that investing in infrastructure like fundraising, marketing, technology, and performance measurement wasn't a distraction from mission, but the actual thing that fulfills the mission? The biggest barrier in the arts isn't always money, it's mindset. There's a way of thinking deeply embedded in the arts field that limits how we grow. It is called the poverty mentality. It's about a set of beliefs and behaviors that perpetuate a cycle of financial precarity. The best arts leaders aren't just visionaries, they're strategists. They know that creativity and fiscal responsibility aren't enemies, they're partners. So what does this mean for us? It means asking our funders to rethink restrictive grant structures. It also means giving nonprofit arts leaders the permission that they need to embrace financial strategy with the same passion that they bring to their art. But today, our arts organizations are facing a crisis. They are facing a period of even greater turbulence than the COVID-19 pandemic.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus,
coronavirus,
or even the Great Recession.
Tax dollars have been shoveled into the hole that Wall Street dug.
The pandemic exposed just how vulnerable arts organizations were.
Dozens of local professionals rallied to save New York City's arts community.
This pandemic has been devastating for the performing arts and those of us who love them.
Once thriving community, dark due to COVID.
Because the arts are so deeply tied to in-person connection, lockdowns meant an immediate halt to their work.
Now, instead of conversing about culture, many are talking survival.
In a crisis environment, we know that the arts are often deemed non-essential services. When we compare to human service, healthcare, and education nonprofit organizations. We also know that donors' preferences for the arts are more elastic, meaning donors are more likely to change their decision regarding giving to the arts in the face of other competing demands for giving. Anyone can claim to care about the arts, poverty, or higher education. But what they fund or fail to fund, that tells us what they really care about. When we underfund the arts, we undercut the very spaces that help us connect, reflect, and imagine new futures. That's why financial strategy isn't separate from artistic mission. It is essential to sustaining it. Although the poverty mentality is deeply ingrained in many parts of the arts ecosystem, we can shift away from this mindset by doing the following. Arts organizations can value labor and advocate for fair wages. They can normalize financial planning and strategic growth within the organization. They can also work on building diverse streams of revenue to reduce dependence on volatile or restrictive funding. And finally, I encourage arts organizations to create narratives of abundance, innovation, and possibility instead of narratives of scarcity and survival. What would happen if we truly valued sustainability in the arts sector. If we celebrated arts organizations and arts leaders, not just for their creative vision, but for their ability to build organizations that thrive. With that, I'd love to continue this conversation. Joining me now is Mary Jaffa, Vice President for Finance at NJPAC, to talk about arts organizations, what it means to lead an arts nonprofit today, and what the future holds for art organizations in general. Mary, thank you again for joining me this evening. You bring such a unique dual perspective from nearly 25 years at NJPAC, coupled with your longtime service on the board of Grassroots. So to start us off, since you've worked at both ends of the spectrum, from a large institution to small community nonprofits, what are the biggest financial challenges that seem to cut across organizational size, and where do things start to differ?
I would say that the largest challenge that any nonprofit financial leader should focus on managing cash, knowing how the cash is coming in and what your outflows of cash are going to be during the year, which should mimic the budget that you have, the budget that you present to your board, and the budget that you adhere to during the year to make sure that you are capable in managing your inflows and outflows for the organization. In terms of differences, I would say that access to capital is one of the largest differences that I've seen in my experience. And at NJPAC, we have a few lines of credit with different banks. Firsthand, I saw how difficult it was for a small organization to get access to capital. When I first started at Grassroots, it was about a $900,000 budget, and today it's about a $2 million budget. They do have a line of credit. Thankfully, they don't have to use it, but it's there for a rainy day. And during COVID, we really thought that we would need it, but thankfully, through the generosity of their donors, they were able to make do without it.
I often say sustainability in the arts isn't just about money. It's about mission, people, and place. I'm curious, having seen both sides, what do you think are the biggest blind spots institutions and small nonprofits have about each other?
That we all have tiny teams. No matter how large we are, still the resources are limited. I see that on the Grassroots side also, that one person is doing the job of 3 people I may have at NJPAC, and I come to appreciate that I have that type of resource. But at the end of the day, the larger the institution you are, the more work that is needed to be done.
What can arts supporters, patrons, donors, board members really do to help organizations thrive financially?
Number one, consistent giving, no matter what the size. It truly helps the organization. The more unrestricted your gift is, the better it is. As we talked before about keeping your administrative costs low, keeping your overhead low is tough in these times. You need to have appropriate administrative overhead in order to run the organization efficiently. But at the same time, when you have donors who are restricting their gifts, you're very limited to that. So we learned at Grassroots, one thing to do is to do a sustained membership. Every month, contribute. That helped with their cash flow, but also helped with their restricted giving. Membership is a key way for Grassroots to increase their revenue stream, and it's worked very well.
Thank you again, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed reading your book.
Thank you.